Hello guys, and welcome back for a new video. So today we are gonna talk about the supply and demand concept. So supply and demand equal order block, OB or POI, point of interest. So to start this video, I want to explain to you some basics that we have to understand the concept of supply and demand. So we'll need to understand the consolidation, the expansion in the markets. So the markets either do one of two things, is in consolidation or is in expansion. When the price is in consolidation, it means that it is a period of range activity after an extended price moves. The consolidations illustrate the lack of a trend in a particular trading range. We will be able to define a high and a low from this range. So in a consolidation, price is creating liquidity by taking sell on the high and buy on the low, and when the price has the liquidity needed, price can do an expansion and continue or reverse its trend. So the second is the expansion, and the expansion is a period of high volume activity and where the price creates structure. So now that we know all of that, we will be able to see what's supply and demand and how it works. So the supply and demand, also called order block, are liquidity pool that bank and financial institution use to close and open new orders with a big amount. An order block is the final candle before the impulsive move that leads to break market structure. And how it works, it's that the PFE will take a position in the opposite direction of what they want to do to facilitate their own liquidity. It's very important to note this thing. And once the liquidity is created, they take position to push the market in the direction they want. At a certain point, for a certain reason, the price will come back into the order block to fill liquidity and to rebalance the price. This allows to bank and financial institutions to close their position at break-even or with a little stop loss and open to continue the trend. Okay, so what does that mean by that? I mean that, for example, here bank and financial institution will take a sell before the big buy that breaks structure. I know this is the change of character, the first sign of changing trend, but here I just want to illustrate what another block needs. And even if the structure isn't valid, isn't valid because we don't have two boss, it does not mean that the order block is not valid. Okay, the order block is valid because we have the break of structure. And so the bank and financial institution will take a sell to facilitate their own liquidity. After, they will take a buy, and at certain point, for certain reasons, bank and financial institution will come back into the POI. And for example, if here they take selling position and take buying position, here they are in profit with buying position with, for example, 10 million, but with the selling position they are in negative for 10 or 15 million, for example. So what they will do, they will come back into the order block to mitigate and to close at break-even or with a small stop loss the position that they open in the counter trend. And this mitigation will allow bank and financial institution to create their own liquidity. And it's very important to understand that because, as I told you in the liquidity video, price moves from a liquidity pool to another with to rebalance the price, and our liquidity pool are the supply and demand. Okay guys, now we saw all of that, we can go through the supply and demand and understand how I can mark them and what are the rules to respect to have supply and demand. So the bullish order block, so the demand, because when we buy, we demand for the price, so we demand for one thing. And a bullish order block is the last down candle before the big move to the upside, which breaks structure. By doing that, by breaking a structure, price can be inefficient. That means an imbalance between buyers and sellers that leaves a fair value gap between two candles. So for example, here we have imbalance between buyers and sellers, and we don't have anything between these two candles. Okay, we don't have wicks, we don't have anything, it's just a full candle, and so we have all of this imbalance to fill, and in this imbalance we have a lot of liquidity and a lot of resting orders. So price come back into the order block to rebalance the price, open new order, and also fill liquidity. So as I told you before, price will come back to either the bank and financial institution to take new order, close their selling order from there to be at break even or with a small stop loss. And so that's the same with the bearish order blocks. So the bearish order block is the supply. When we sell, we are supplier, and a bearish order block is the last step candle before the big move to the downside, which breaks the structure. By doing that, price can be inefficient. That means an imbalance between buyers and sellers that leaves a fair value gap between two candles. Price come back into the hobby to rebalance the price, open new orders, and also fill liquidity. It's very nice to understand that we need to break the structure, and we need to have a big candle and a big momentum, which doing that to have a nice order block. So now we will be able to see some rules. So it will be the better if you have fresh zone. What I mean by fresh zone, so this is the newer zone, and they are usually the better to maximize your probabilities. If price has already, for example, if price is already here, touch the order block, and price goes up, don't break the structure, and also come back into the order block another time, the order block can work, but it will have less probabilities to work because price has already touched it and mitigate a certain part of it. With that, we can go to the next point, that's the equilibrium point. So the 15% equilibrium of an order block can act as a very good entry for certain type of order block. For me, when price mitigates the 50% of the zone, is not valid anymore to take an entry. So for example, if price come back into this order block, mitigates here, and don't break the structure after come back into the 50%, I can take a trade to sweep, this liquidity. But if price come back firstly in the 50%, then don't break structure and come back into the order block, I will not enter again into it, because for me the order block is completely mitigated and I don't want to risk anything about that. But you can backtest it because every person are different, and with the backtesting you can see that maybe for you it's 75% or 60%, I don't know. For me it's 50% because it's an equilibrium point, and most of the time when price comes back into this 50% and then break structure or not and come back, the order block doesn't hold anymore. So that's why I'm using this 50% as equilibrium point. So now we will see the rules of an order block. So the first rule of an order block is the break of structure. An order block need to minimum break the structure to be valid. In fact, we use order block because we know that there is a large amount of orders in this area. The break of structure in a market needs a lot of orders to happen. That's why this rule is the most important. As I told you in the liquidity video, we move from a liquidity pool to another, and our order block are those one. But we have to use them with strict rule to use the better one and to don't be trapped. The second rule is that an order block must respect. You don't need to have the both rules at the same time, okay? An OB can be created by a sweep of liquidity. If you have an OB created by a sweep of liquidity and this OB break the structure, you will have more probabilities to have a good area. Everyone needs to create his own data to be able using them well. So after all of this explanation, I will show you into the real markets how I use my order block, and in the next video I will show you the different types of order block and how to recognize them in a real market. the last point I have here is not a rule, but it's a plus if you want to enter into an hobby and have more probabilities into your trade. It's the inducement before an order block. So inducement before an order block is a creation of liquidity which induce people to make the wrong move before the order block. So for example here, we were maybe like this. Okay, we accumulate here. We break the structure. Here we come back a little bit, recreate little structure, then we break here this little point. It induces people to buy at the breakout or waiting to pull back to buy, and it generates a lot of liquidity, and this liquidity we will call it inducement because it induces people to make the wrong move before the POI. And it's not 100% needed. Okay, you can have another block which don't have liquidity and inducement, but is total valid and works very nice. So okay, now we know all of that. I will show you in a real market how we can identify the supply and demand area. Okay guys, here we are in the real market. So I know in the structure video I told you that the first break of structure is the change of character. So here I only mark boss here to illustrate the break of structure. This is a change of character, but I mark it as a boss to illustrate the break of structure for the order block videos. So here we break the structure to the down. We accumulate some orders here, and after we break the structure to the downside here, up here, we break this structure on the left. We create many liquidity here, okay, so that we can use as inducement. And the origin of this move is this buying candle before the big move to the downside. So our order block will be on this area. So for the position on an order block, we take the bottom and we put the stop loss just above, or some people will have rules to have more secure stop loss, which secure, for example, the wick or maybe another structure on the left. But here for the example, I would just put my stop loss just above the supply zone. So now we have all of this, okay. We have the break of structure here. We have the last up candle before the big move to the downside. We have liquidity. So we can play the price. So price come back into the area, right? Price makes a big move to the downside, just here. So here we don't break any structure, so we can't take this other block here. Maybe in lower time frame we break some structure. Okay, price breaks structure here. So now following the other block, we will be able to mark a new zone. Okay, so as I told you in the video, market moves from a liquidity pool to another to rebalance the price. Okay, so we will check how the price is balanced or not. And as I told you, the imbalance is a gap between two candles. So for example, if I come back here, here I have my imbalance here, which starts here and finish here. So here it's an imbalance area in the price, and as we see, price come back and mitigates all of its imbalance. Okay, the imbalance doesn't need to be mitigated directly. Sometimes the imbalance will be mitigated after 2 or 3 months, but it's a nice indication that you can use to mark your zone. Okay, so I will continue the price. Okay, so here the big candle before the last up candle before the big move to the downside, which breaks structure, was this candle. And if you are asking yourself why we took this one and not, for example, this one, it's because on this one, as we can see, prices already mitigated this zone, and for this zone we have the same here. Prices already mitigated this zone and plus by 50% maybe. So we use this zone because we have still imbalance to fill, and price doesn't get in the 50% of this zone, so price just taps here to continue moving to break the structure. So this is our supply area at this time in the market. So we can set second order on it, cover a little bit and join. Okay, we'll see how the price come back. We see that price creates inducement. Here price creates a high, then price here creates low, induce people to sell, and then big buying candle. And will not be tagged. Okay, we will be tagged. Okay, second inducement here. Price creates a high, induce people to sell, and after sweep the liquidity, takes the other block, and now we expect the price to goes down. Okay, break of structure, new break of structure here. So our supply will be at the last up candle before the big move. So here we are at this point. As I told you, supply or demand can be created by a sweep of liquidity, and so here, as you can see, we have a sweep of liquidity. So this is a valid supply area too. Price comes back and then break the structure. Here, as we can see, price don't come back into our order block, but we can see one thing is that the price here comes back and mitigates this week just here. Up. And so sometimes market will act like that. Okay, this zone can be useful for the future. Okay, it's not been that this zone now is not using anymore. Okay, it's just that the price was very bearish, and as the liquidity needed to fill this move, so we just mitigated this week. There is always an explanation why price doesn't come back into your POI, so always try to find the reasons why sometimes price don't come back into your POI, and it will increase very big your knowledge about the market and your understanding about that. So guys, in the next video I will show you the different types of order block, okay, how to enter on the different types of order block and how to use them in the market with the right stop loss, with the right entry. And I hope this video, guys, helps you. I try to make it with more information and with more theoretical aspects. I will give you the image into the Discord, like that you can have the image and can read it if you want. And so see you on the next video. Bye bye, guys.